In a rain-soaked alley, a desperate plea cuts through the storm. "Please don't hurt me, I can't walk," begs Isabel Monroe, a powerful CEO now broken and cornered by her ruthless ex-fiancé. As danger closes in, a single dad, Tyler Ford, steps out of the shadows with his young daughter, changing her fate forever. The rain hammered down on the city streets like a relentless drumbeat, turning the night into a slick, shadowy maze. In a narrow alley tucked between towering skyscrapers, Isabel Monroe, the formidable CEO of a tech empire, lay crumpled on the cold pavement. Her designer white suit was soaked and torn, blonde hair matted against her pale face. Her left ankle twisted grotesquely, swollen and throbbing with pain that shot through her like lightning. She couldn't stand, couldn't run. Footsteps echoed closer, heavy, purposeful. Her ex-fiancé, David Langston, loomed over her, his face twisted in rage, fists clenched. "Please, don't hurt me," she begged, her voice cracking with raw fear. "I can't walk." The words hung in the damp air, a desperate plea from a woman who had commanded boardrooms, but now felt utterly powerless. David's shadow stretched long under the flickering streetlight, his breath visible in the chill. He had chased her from the luxury hotel suite after she refused to sign over company assets, grabbing the laptop with evidence of his schemes. She had fled barefoot into the storm, slipping on the wet ground, her ankle giving way with a sickening crack. Now he advanced, eyes narrowed. "You think you can ruin me?" he snarled, kicking aside a puddle that splashed against her. Isabel curled tighter, shielding the laptop to her chest. It was her only weapon, proof of his fraud. Tears mixed with rain on her cheeks as pain blurred her vision. Thunder rumbled overhead, masking her sobs. She had built her life on control. But here, in this forgotten corner, it all unraveled. From the alley's mouth, a different sound cut through the storm, a child's soft whisper. Tyler Ford, a 31-year-old single dad, paused mid-stride, his daughter Lily bundled in his arms under a faded yellow raincoat. He was heading home from a late repair job, his worn boots sloshing through puddles, muscles aching from fixing appliances all day. Lily, 6 years old with wild curls peeking from her hood, clutched her stuffed rabbit. "Daddy, what's that noise?" she asked, her voice tiny against the downpour. Tyler's instincts sharpened. Years as a former firefighter-paramedic had honed his senses for danger. He set Lily down gently. "Stay right here, okay? Don't move." She nodded, wide-eyed, as he stepped forward, his tall frame cutting through the rain. The scene unfolded before him like a nightmare. The woman on the ground, pleading, the man advancing with menace. Tyler's voice boomed, low and commanding. "Step away from her, now!" David whirled, startled, sizing up this intruder in faded jeans and a soaked jacket. Tension crackled like the lightning above. Tyler's gaze was steady, unflinching, not aggressive, but unyielding. It was the look of a man who had faced flames and chaos, who knew how to stand firm. David hesitated, then backed off, muttering curses as he melted into the shadows, the rain swallowing his retreat. Isabel blinked up at Tyler, breath hitching in disbelief. Who are you?" she whispered, limbs trembling from shock and cold. Tyler knelt beside her, his touch gentle as he assessed her ankle. "I'm Tyler. You're safe now." He scooped her up effortlessly, careful not to jostle her injury, the laptop still clutched in her arms. Lily peeked from the corner, thunder flashing across her curious face. "Daddy, is she okay?" Tyler nodded reassuringly. "She's going to be fine, honey." As he carried Isabel through the rain, her head rested against his shoulder, the warmth of his presence cutting through her fear. She didn't know him, but in that moment, something shifted. A stranger's kindness piercing her guarded world. The night that could have ended in tragedy had just begun a story of unexpected change. Tyler Ford lived in a crumbling apartment on the 3rd floor, where peeling paint and creaky floorboards told stories of better days. At 31, his life was divided into before and after losing his wife, Emily, to cancer 2 years prior. Her absence left a void that clung to him like damp clothes, but he carried on for Lily, his 6-year-old daughter. His days were spent fixing washing machines, the smell of rust and detergent embedded in his calloused hands. The pay kept the fridge stocked and Lily's crayons plentiful, but late rent notices piled up like unopened wounds. He didn't complain. As long as Lily had a warm bed and her bright smile, he could bear the ache in his joints and the weight of quiet nights. Before fatherhood consumed him, Tyler had been a firefighter-paramedic, running into danger with a heart trained to stay steady. A long scar on his left arm marked a night he pulled a girl from a burning house, only to carry the memory of her survival as a silent burden. He never spoke of it, Not to Lily, not to anyone. Some scars were meant to be carried, not displayed. Now, his world revolved around Lily's laughter. Her wild curls and her insistence that colors make everything better. Her crayon drawings, rainbows, flowers, stick figures holding hands, covered their walls, turning their small space into a gallery of hope. She never left her stuffed rabbit or her battered crayon box behind. Her tiny world a burst of light against Tyler's gray days. That rainy night, Tyler had promised Lily a hot dog from the corner stand if she stayed patient through their grocery run. They took a shortcut through the alley, a habit born of tired feet and a desire to get home before the storm worsened. Then came the scream, a woman's voice sharp with fear. Tyler's old instincts kicked in, the ones that had once guided him through smoke and chaos. He didn't hesitate. Setting Lily down, he moved toward the sound, his boots splashing in puddles, his heart steady but heavy. This wasn't just a detour. It was a moment that would shift the course of his life, though he didn't know it yet. Lily stood clutching her rabbit, rain dripping from her hood, watching her father disappear into the dark. She trusted him, but her small voice trembled. "Daddy's helping, right?" she whispered to herself, as if saying it aloud made it true. Tyler's life had been about fixing things, machines, broken homes, his daughter's fears. But this night he was stepping into something bigger, something that would test the quiet strength he'd built from years of loss and love. Isabel Monroe was a name that echoed through corporate towers, a 35-year-old CEO whose sharp mind and sharper heels dominated the tech industry. Her life was a series of calculated moves, boardroom victories, stock market gambles, and a carefully curated image of untouchable success. But beneath the tailored suits and penthouse views, she was trapped. Her engagement to David Langston, the CFO of her company, was her father's strategy to cement their empire. David's charm had once seemed strategic, but it had soured into control. For months he pressured her to sign over key assets, his words laced with subtle threats. Isabel refused, her defiance growing like a crack in glass. That night, in a sleek hotel suite, the facade shattered. David's voice rose, his grip on her wrist tightening as he demanded her compliance. Something snapped inside her, not fear, but clarity. She grabbed the laptop containing evidence of his fraudulent deals and ran, barefoot, into the storm. The rain soaked her white suit, her heart pounding like a hunted animal's. She slipped in an alley, her ankle twisting with a sickening pop. The laptop, her lifeline, stayed clutched to her chest as she hit the wet pavement. Pain blurred her vision, but fear kept her alert. David's footsteps grew closer, his voice a low growl in the rain. Isabel had never run like this. Not from boardrooms, not from her father's expectations, not from the weight of her title. Her life had been a series of cages, each more gilded than the last. She was a woman who negotiated billion-dollar deals. Yet here she was, defenseless, her designer suit ruined, her phone lost somewhere in the street. The laptop held proof that could unravel David's schemes, but it also made her a target. As she curled up, shielding it, she felt the weight of her choices. She had fought to be seen as powerful, but now, all she wanted was to be safe. The alley was a tunnel of shadows, rain slicing through the air like shards of glass. Isabel's pleas echoed off the walls, her voice raw with desperation. David towered over her, his silhouette monstrous under the streetlight's flicker. She clutched the laptop tighter, its edges digging into her chest, her swollen ankle useless beneath her. Each of his steps sent a jolt of fear through her, her breath coming in gasps. She had faced hostile takeovers, but this was primal. Survival stripped bare. The rain drowned her sobs, but not her resolve. She wouldn't let him win, not like this. Tyler's voice cut through the storm like a lifeline. Step away from her. Now. His words were calm, but carried the weight of authority, honed from years of facing danger. David spun, his confidence faltering as he met Tyler's steady gaze. The single dad stood tall, rain streaming down his face, his worn jacket clinging to his broad shoulders. Lily watched from the alley's edge, her small figure barely visible, clutching her rabbit as thunder roared. Tyler didn't flinch, his presence a quiet force that shifted the air. David took a step back, then another, his bravado crumbling under the weight of Tyler's certainty. Without a word, he vanished into the dark. Isabel's breath caught, her eyes locked on Tyler as he knelt beside her. His hands were gentle but sure, checking her ankle with the practiced ease of a former paramedic. "Can you move?" he asked, voice soft but steady. She shook her head, tears mixing with rain. He didn't hesitate, lifting her carefully, mindful of her injury. The laptop stayed in her grip, a symbol of her fight. "You're safe," he said, carrying her through the downpour, his warmth cutting through the cold. Lily followed, her raincoat a splash of yellow in the gloom, her trust in her father unwavering. The rain had slowed to a drizzle by the time Tyler carried Isabel into his apartment building, its chipped paint and flickering hallway lights a stark contrast to her penthouse world. His arms were steady, shielding her from the wind as he climbed the stairs. Isabel clung to the laptop, her body trembling from shock and cold, her ankle throbbing with each step. Tyler's silence was comforting, not demanding answers or explanations. He pushed open the door to his modest home, where crayon drawings covered the walls and a faint smell of coffee lingered. "You're safe here," he said, lowering her onto a worn couch. Lily tiptoed in, her rain boots squeaking, her stuffed rabbit dangling from one hand. She studied Isabel with wide, curious eyes, unafraid but serious. "Daddy, why's she so sad?" she asked, her voice cutting through the quiet. Tyler paused, setting a blanket over Isabel's shoulders. "She's had a tough day, honey," he said gently. Lily nodded, then wandered to her room, her boots leaving tiny wet prints. Tyler brought a towel, wrapping it around Isabel's shivering frame. "Tea's coming," he said, disappearing into the kitchen. Isabel sank into the couch, the warmth of the blanket grounding her. This place, small, imperfect, was nothing like the sterile luxury she knew, yet it felt alive with something she couldn't name. Her ankle pulsed, but the pain was secondary to the shock of kindness. She had stormed boardrooms, but here, in this cramped space, she felt exposed, vulnerable. Tyler returned with a steaming mug, the scent of ginger sharp and soothing. "Drink this," he said, his voice a steady anchor. She nodded, unable to speak, her fingers tightening around the mug. The laptop rested beside her, a reminder of the world she'd fled. For the first time, she wasn't planning her next move. She was simply here, seen by a stranger who asked for nothing in return. Isabel woke in the middle of the night, the apartment cloaked in stillness. A soft glow from the hallway spilled across the floor, illuminating the blanket that had slipped from her shoulders. Her ankle ached, but the pain was duller now, manageable. The laptop lay beside her, its weight a reminder of the danger she'd escaped. Guilt pressed on her chest. She had crashed into this stranger's life, disrupting the quiet rhythm of Tyler and Lily's world. She had no right to stay. Slowly, she rose, biting back a wince as her foot touched the floor, and limped toward the door, determined to slip away before dawn. Her shoes, still by the entrance, caught her eye. They were no longer soaked, carefully dried and patched, the loose sole stitched with precise, deliberate lines. Beside them, a folded towel, warm to the touch, and a note in rough, steady handwriting. "Your foot's not better yet. You can stay. It's okay." Isabel stared at the words, her breath catching. No demands, no ulterior motives, just kindness, offered freely. She sank to the floor, the note trembling in her hands. All her life she had fought to prove her worth, to be enough in a world that demanded perfection. But here, in this small apartment with crayon-covered walls, she felt something new. Acceptance. She stayed, curling back onto the couch, the note tucked close. The quiet of the apartment wrapped around her, free of the city's chaos, free of David's threats. For the first time, she didn't feel like a CEO or a pawn in someone else's game. She was just Isabel, and that was enough. The thought scared her as much as it warmed her, a flicker of hope in a heart long guarded. Morning light filtered through worn curtains, casting soft patterns across the apartment. The faint whistle of a kettle and the clatter of pans woke Isabel, pulling her from dreams of boardrooms to the reality of this humble space. For a moment, she thought she was back in her penthouse, with staff moving on schedule. Then she saw the crayon drawings taped to the fridge, the cracked floorboard by the sink. Tyler appeared carrying a mug of ginger tea, its sharp scent cutting through the air. "Drink this," he said, setting it beside her. "It'll help the pain." Isabel sat up, testing her ankle. The swelling had eased slightly, though it still throbbed. She sipped the tea, its warmth spreading through her. "You made this?" she asked, surprised. Tyler nodded, sitting on the coffee table with a roll of bandages. "Old habit. Ginger, clean water, steady hands." He lifted her foot gently, unwrapping the old bandage with care, his touch professional, yet kind. Isabel watched, silent. She had assistants, advisors, but no one had cared for her like this, without expectation, without agenda. "You've done this before," she murmured. He nodded, focused on rewrapping her ankle. "Rescue work. Fires, accidents. You learn to stay calm." His hands moved with precision, but his eyes held a quiet weight, a story untold. Isabel wanted to ask more, but he reached for her torn jacket, pulling a sewing kit from a shelf. "You don't have to," she began. "I know," he said, threading a needle. The stitches were uneven, but his focus was unwavering. Tears welled in Isabel's eyes, sudden and unstoppable. She covered her face, ashamed. "Did I hurt you?" Tyler asked, pausing. "No," she whispered, voice breaking. "I'm just not used to being cared for." Lily's footsteps broke the moment, her pajamas star-covered, a crayon drawing clutched to her chest. "This is for you," she said, placing it in Isabel's lap. It was a picture. A tall man, a little girl in yellow shoes, and an empty outline of a blonde woman. "That's you," Lily said, smiling. "I left the space empty, waiting for someone who belongs. It's you now." Isabel's throat tightened, tears spilling as she held the drawing. "Why me?" she whispered. "Because you're here," Lily replied. "And you need a family." Isabel let out a half-laugh, half-sob, pressing the picture close. For the first time she felt seen, not as a CEO, but as a person. Days passed and Isabel's ankle healed slowly, each step a reminder of her vulnerability. She hated needing help, but Tyler never made her feel weak. He offered his arm without comment, steadying her when she stumbled, pausing when she winced. "One step at a time," he'd say, his voice a calm anchor. Their movements became a quiet ritual, a rhythm of trust they didn't name. One sunny Saturday, Lily declared it Pancake Day. "Daddy's pancakes are okay," she said with a shrug. "But Isabel's will be fancy." Isabel smirked. "I've never cooked. Not even toast." Tyler raised an eyebrow. "That's about to change." In the cramped kitchen, elbows bumped as they mixed batter in a cracked bowl. Lily stood on a chair, ordering like a tiny chef. More milk, not too many eggs. Isabel's first pancake stuck, the second folded, the third caught fire. Tyler grabbed the pan, waving away smoke. "That one's yours," he teased, nudging the charred blob toward her. Their laughter filled the kitchen, loud and unguarded, like sunlight breaking through clouds. The pancakes were uneven, some raw, but Lily grinned. "Dorky pancakes are good." They ate slowly, the golden light spilling over the table. Lily chattering about school, her cat sock teacher, and calling Isabel her maybe new mom. Isabel froze, meeting Tyler's eyes. He poured syrup, unperturbed, as if it were natural. That evening, with Lily asleep, Isabel and Tyler sat on the couch, headlights flickering outside. She leaned against his shoulder, his heartbeat steady under her cheek. "You've saved me from so much," she whispered. He didn't ask what she meant, just said, "I didn't save anyone. I saw someone who needed help." His words, simple and honest, cut through her guarded heart. For the first time, she felt seen, not as a title, but as a person who mattered. The peace shattered with a phone's ring, then a knock at the door. Loud, familiar. Isabel froze, hands soapy from dishes. Tyler glanced out the window, closing the curtain. "Don't move," he said calmly. A black car idled outside. David had found her. Reporters and a legal team followed, turning the sidewalk into a spectacle. Tyler stood by the door, arms crossed, shielding her. Lily's voice came softly from the bedroom. "Why are people outside?" "They're just lost," Isabel lied, her voice steady for the child's sake. That evening, a message from the board arrived. Millions in compensation, reinstatement, a chance to return to her empire. All she had to do was sign and pretend nothing happened. Isabel stared at the laptop, then closed it. She walked to Tyler, drying dishes. "I'm not going back," she said. He looked at her, eyes serious. "You sure?" "Yes," she replied. "I've been offered everything, but I've never felt like I do here. Real, seen, safe." He nodded, and by morning they packed a bag. Tyler drove them out of the city to his mother's farmhouse, a quiet haven among birch trees. His mother, a retired nurse, welcomed Isabel without questions, offering bread and a bed. That night, under a starlit sky, Isabel felt the weight of her old life lift. Isabel returned to the boardroom, her steps uneven from her healing ankle, dressed in a simple navy suit. The sterile space felt colder than she remembered, its glass walls reflecting her past dominance. Whispers followed her entrance, but she stood tall, fire in her eyes. David smirked from her former seat. "Miss Monroe, how unexpected," he said, dripping with condescension. She ignored him, facing the shareholders. "I came to finish this right," she said, her voice clear. With a tap, her laptop lit up the screens, exposing David's fraud. Spreadsheets, emails, proof of corruption. "You thought I left because I was weak," she said, meeting every gaze. "I left to remember who I was." David stood, protesting, but she silenced him with a raised hand. "I'm resigning," she declared, placing a document on the table. "I'm done with your empire of fear." The room fell silent, her words a thunderclap. She walked out, limping but unbowed, the elevator doors closing on her past. Outside, the sunset painted the sky amber. She exhaled, free. Back at the apartment, Tyler and Lily worked in the garden, hands dirty with soil. Isabel joined them, kneeling to plant a flower. "Room for one more?" she asked. Tyler nodded, his smile warm. "Always." Days later, Isabel launched the Lily House, a non-profit for women escaping abuse. Tyler built the website, Lily named it saying, "Flowers need sunshine and love." One evening, Lily gave Isabel a woven bracelet, a commitment to being family. Isabel's heart swelled. "I've been chosen for being me," she whispered, holding Tyler's hand. In shared breakfasts, garden dirt, and bedtime stories, Isabel found love, not conditional, but chosen. Her life wasn't power. It was home. If this story touched you, like, comment, and share it with someone who needs light. Subscribe to Kindness and Love Tales for weekly stories of healing and second chances.